can't believe we're here already.
Here we are.
It feels like it was just yesterday we were talking about the creation of Offstage.
That's true.
How does it feel?
It feels like I'm pregnant and about to give birth. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
I was so happy when, we started brainstorming about all of this. I still remember when you gave me that call, and I was just so excited. First because it's been also a dream of mine. I was very happy to hear that you also wanted something like that for you.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, because you trusted me with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you were not ready before, but then you felt like you were, and you felt like I was also the right person to go on that journey with you.
And I think the reason why I thought, you were the right person for several reasons, right? One is that your level of detail from just being an athlete yourself, you're being coached by my fiance, Dominic, and him sharing with me the details of information that you would provide to him of your own journey in bodybuilding. And whoever understands the sport understands all the details that go into really becoming a bodybuilder, and you always delivered on that. And
Thank you.
on top of that, you're a designer.
Yes.
You are you're somebody that has the eyes for details, and you also have a very interesting sense of fashion on your on your social media as well. So every time I would see you posting something, I knew that you thought a lot about before you actually post it.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I have to pay more attention to that sometimes.
You're chronically online. You know that. No, but for sure, I think that when the way you conduct yourself as an athlete and in life in general tells a lot about who you are as a professional, and the level of seriousness that I, have towards bodybuilding or my work or anything that I do in life. It's just a big thing about me. Like, I am very all or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
I
like
noticed
giving.
that.
Yeah, if
I love
I'm
that.
on something, I'll give it all,
Mm-hmm.
and I will give it my best because I like to, have things that look good, and I like to perform, and I think it's a competitive nature too of being an athlete, and you just always want to be the very best.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to take that in different avenues of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, in my profession, in architecture, in design, bodybuilding, being a friend, or a husband, like all of these things that are the sign that I take everything very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate your trusting me with that.
Yes,
I was
and
very happy.
so you mentioned, were you always that way since you were like a child, and you were actually born in Brazil, the same country as me? So that was a big thing for me too, because
Oh yeah.
we speak the same language, not only, Portuguese,
Yeah.
but in a sense of like, I don't know, there is something about sharing things with people that understand truly your culture.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in US now for 22 years, and I love America. This is my country now. But when I go back to the place where I was born, there is something that we all share with each other there, like the little jokes, the food,
Mm-hmm.
things that I can only really share with Brazilians.
Right. I love our history. I love that we have such a similar kind of background. That we both kind of struggled a little bit and had to work really hard.
Mm-hmm.
We moved abroad early in our lives. Things weren't easy, right? And I think it's hilarious that you say we speak the same language. Well, you should tell that to Gemini, because it's every time we have a call, it's a nightmare. We never
Yeah.
know if we're speaking Portuguese or English,
Yeah.
because we just switch back and forth.
Yeah.
But I get it about the nuances in life and how we can just click. with certain things, you know. But answering your question, yes, I was a weird child in a good way.
Uh-huh.
You know, I was the kind of guy that, first of all, if you don't play soccer in Brazil as a child, that is
You're
already
weird.
a red flag. You're very weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not into soccer.
Mm-hmm.
I was the guy who was, in the library reading books or sketching. I always liked to draw ever since I was, super little. And I think I just always had an eye for things that are just more artsy, I guess. I guess that's why I ended up becoming an architect. But I just remember my parents just like trusting me with their like facade of their house. And I think I was like 12 years old, which is crazy when I think now. But all I had was like, I don't know, my computer with some like raw sketches. And they let me. They let me redesign their facade when I was like 10, 11. I think it was like 11 years old.
I love your parents for that.
And I was just so happy because it was like my very first project. And then I went to architecture school, became an architect, interior designer. So it's just been, and then a bodybuilder, right? Just like, so sculpting my body, designing things. Yes, absolutely. It's been a big, big portion of my life. And what I like about your life is that you have been just nonstop in so many different things. This like entrepreneurial side of you is just insane. And, I know that you can get stuff done.
Yeah. I've been really blessed that I didn't grow up with much. I know it sounds maybe strange for people who are listening, but I think that's a huge common denominator that I see with people that are extremely successful in life, because they're put into situations where they have to thrive no matter what, or else, or they're going to be content with whatever they have, which is also fine. But my mom just, I remember she told me, she said, I can only give you, I'm not going to leave you with tons of material things, but I'm going to work my ass off to put you in the best school, and I'm going to have you go to America and learn English. You're going to learn English, you're going to come back and going to have a great job here in Brazil.
I love her for that. I really do.
And I didn't really want to come to America at the time because I had a very comfortable life. Like, my comfort wasn't necessarily like in a materialistic thing, but I always been the kid that had a lot of friends. Now, when you're a child, it's a little different when you're older. Like, now we really know what the word trends, mean. But when you're a child, you're like, I have people that I can play with outside, in the mud. Or I can just, in my years in Brazil, it was like, who can I drink beer, and like listen to rock and roll and be stupid. I had tons of friends like that, and they were really cool kids too. They were not really trouble, kids, but we liked to get in trouble together. And I had a boyfriend at the time. I had a band. I had a punk rock band.
You had a band?
Yes, I was a singer.
You never told me that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
So wait, a metal band, like a rock band?
A punk rock band.
Of course. How
We
did I
played.
not see this coming?
We played in like 10 different cities. I have pictures. I'll show it to you.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
The first one was called DIDA, Direitos Iguais de Anarquizar.
Okay. Look at you, rebel.
I know. And then it was bulimia at one time. Bulimia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we had a great time. We were just a bunch of kids that were really interested in music, and most of the people that I surrounded myself with when I was a child, they were really, artistic too. And I think that's the biggest difference between this generation that I see now, that I feel so sad about it, is that my generation, and I think yours too, we didn't have cell phones. No. We didn't have iPads. We didn't have like really YouTube. So we really got in so many, we needed to find things to kind of spend time with, right? So we were going to play guitar. We were going to taste different types of alcohol. We were going to talk about politics, although we know nothing about it. and we're just gonna have a good time and then just kind of get in good trouble. And that's what my mom was worried about. We joke sometimes when I go back home there, my friends say, "You're a legend." I was like, "I know." Because I had,
So you still hold that title.
I still hold that title, because I used to really like to party. But like again, it was so different back in the day because the party people there were actually the very responsible people. Like at my time, I still woke up and I would help my mom doing the chores in the house. I would still come back at a reasonable time, and I was always like, I would go to school, I would have good grades. I mean, everything, it was fine. You know what I mean? As opposed to like being a completely party animal and then your life just kind of crashes in front of your eyes and upside down. No, we were like, it's Monday, nothing happened.
Right.
We're ready to go. But my mom was worried about that because there was a point that she felt I was getting too comfortable with just doing that. And she said, I want you to go and I want you to study abroad and come back and go and take vestibular, which is an exam to pass into the best schools in Brazil, which are public schools, right? But when I was done with my exchange student year, I told my mom, I think I found my place. I mean, my mom took me away from a small town in São Paulo and she sent me to Los Angeles.
What did she expect?
As soon as I landed in Los Angeles, the lady who picked me up as the exchange student, person who was in charge of, the whole thing, she took me to Venice Beach. She took me and 3 other kids, I think there were 3 Italian kids and 1 German, and we went to Venice Beach. And she's like, oh, I'm going to take you where Jim Morrison used to live. I'm like, I want to live here.
You really haven't, right?
This is like, So after a whole year living here in America, I told my mom, I said, like, I came to America when I was 17. I'm going to be 37 now.
I think it's very interesting what you say about getting out of your comfort zone, because that's how I feel about Brazil in general. It is a massive country. We do have such a big culture, and somehow we're kind of immersed in this little bubble where, I mean, you just kind of don't really get exposed to what's out there, right? I don't know about you, but my city never had a foreigner. You know what I mean? Like, I probably saw 1 foreigner when I was like traveling to the capital on one day, but it's just very, very like, in like a domestic kind of culture, and they're like exposed to that. So people never felt it. They never feel the need to leave that, that world that for them is everything. But it's so small once you branch out of that. But it takes a lot of courage. When I decided to leave Brazil, it kind of felt like people were talking to me as if I was crazy. Like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to go? Your life is great here. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I had my people that like reacted that way when you said you wanted to stay. Yeah. Like, why you're not coming back? But it takes so much courage to do what you did, which is not go back to your mom's lap or to your mom's comfort.
I think what happened is that when I left Brazil at a young age, there is nothing really that phases me into like fear or feeling uncomfortable.
Nothing scared you anymore.
No, yeah, it's like, so sometimes when I hear that people get scared of like, how could you leave your family or how could you leave your house? Sometimes I feel a little guilty because I wish I could say, oh yeah, I mean, I know it's so hard for me. It was so hard, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. Yeah.
But I had a great family, don't get me wrong, but I just don't have that. Nothing really triggers that feeling in me.
Yeah. I think in my case, the desire to strive and to get something out of all of that and explore the world, because I was always very curious, surpassed the fear or maybe the slight, reluctance to leave my parents or my family behind, and my only regret was just not leaving earlier like you did.
How old were you when you left?
I was 26.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a little bit older, and I was just not in a good place in Brazil. I was unemployed for many years, graduated as an architect. My country was living, our country was living one of the worst crises in the construction industry. because of the aftermath of the FIFA World Cup and the Olympics.
Oh my gosh, I know all about it.
Yeah, all the bribery scandals, and so nobody was building anything anymore. Construction was just like stopped. So I had no job, and I was unemployed for 4 years.
I think that World Cup cost more than 4 World Cups put together. That's how much of corruption there was.
It was terrible. It was terrible. So I had, I had a degree. I was at my parents' place. Not that they did not like me there. You know how Brazilian families are.
Yeah, of course.
Love you
they love you, yeah.
They never want you to leave. But I wasn't happy with that. I wanted more. I was like, is this what it is? I suffered for 5 years to get this degree. I barely slept to become an architect, sleeping 4 hours a night and taking buses to go to school and all of that. And then what now? Nothing. So I felt in my head that I needed to leave the country, to wait until the crisis would get better. I was like, let me give Brazil 1 to 2 years until this whole crisis is gone. The market gets better for architects and engineers, and I'll come back. So I'll just do a master's program abroad. I'm going to study, get a little, use this time to do something with my life, and I'll come back. And spoiler alert, I never did.
I think that's where it comes now to we talking a little bit about the need of displaying the bodies now, because again, I didn't really have the intention of becoming a bodybuilder, and then when I did, I noticed right away that there was a very different. It was just the body, the body that was displayed on stage, but then the body that was displayed everywhere in the streets or in the gym, there was not really no thought behind it.
Yeah.
Right. And then the same with you, I guess we kind of came across the same issues, right? Of not having any clothes that fit.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's great when you're in the gym, you feel like a god or a goddess because your body is great. But then once you're out of the gym and have to live your normal life, go to work, and find clothes for that body, then that's when the issue starts. Right? Because you're listening to all these compliments. You look amazing. You look great. When is your next show? But then when you just want to be normal, do normal things like everyone else, you feel inadequate. You feel like you don't fit in anymore, right?
Yeah.
Even though you kind of did not sign up for that. You did not know that was going to happen. When was the first time that you noticed that it was really hard for you to just like get, I don't know, a pair of pants or shirts?
Because I had to wear social, like more upscale clothing when I worked at the Four Seasons. We had very high standards of like, even I couldn't even have my nails the way they are right now.
Yeah.
It would have to be no collar, short, your hair up, or like no roots really. So they had standards. And they had standards for clothing too. But at the time I was already going to the gym, and there were a lot of changes happening in terms of like how my shoulders were, my quads. And it's crazy that I was probably maybe 30 pounds or 40 pounds lighter, and I was already,
Having issues.
And having issues, but not only issues, like people were already seeing and calling me something, right? Like, oh, you're an athlete, you're going to compete. So that's where it was back in the day, even like I would say even now, like how for people who don't really experience bodybuilding, somebody who is in the category like in our world, like as a bikini, they're already seen as a muscular girl.
Oh yeah.
So can you imagine what they see when what they think when they see a woman's physique or a woman's bodybuilding? It's like completely, they lose their minds, right?
Yeah.
But Four Seasons wanted me to display that as well as I could, because I was working with very high-end people, because it was in Beverly Hills at the Beverly Wilshire. So I needed to find things that were okay for the brand, and I couldn't really find anything. And not only I couldn't find anything, I I don't know. It was like I couldn't really. I felt like the two worlds were crushing.
Mm-hmm.
That
Incompatible
yeah,
somehow.
that I was like, I'm a bodybuilder, but I'm also an assistant food and beverage of a high end place. I almost felt a little embarrassing of this side because of how everything that was going on there. Like there was just the lack of the attention to the way that we display ourselves outside the gym, the
Mm-hmm.
clothing, and it just looked kind of childish a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think that an NFL or NBA player would feel that way because they already have those standards of how they present themselves. And
Yeah.
then so when I think that they would, a football player would be so proud of saying that I'm also a football player. But
Yeah.
when I was there, I was always like, yeah, I'm a bodybuilder.
Yeah, I think the stigma too, and the sport is seen as almost like a very niche thing. Where, I've as an architect, I kind of wanted to hide that side when I was in meetings sometimes or getting to know someone because I felt like if they saw my arms, they would feel like I was not a good architect, that I was not smart enough,
Mm-hmm.
or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's this like people create stereotypes, and they think that because you take care of your body and you're muscular, then you can't be intelligent, or you can't have good taste, or you don't understand, design or fashion and all of these things. So I've always felt like I had to hide a little bit of that side, and like you said, the embarrassment,
Mm-hmm.
which is a terrible thing to feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, you get those, kind of confirmations when you want to shop for clothes and nothing fits. I'm a short guy. I'm 5'8". So to get something that fits my arms usually means that top will be really long. And that's not what I'm looking for, right? Or the pants, if they fit my legs, then it just kind of gets a little too baggy on my waist. So it became a big problem. And as a result, I don't know about you, but I caught myself just wearing gym clothes to go everywhere when I was not at work, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted something cuter.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted like a nice jacket or I don't know, something just to go out to dinner and look stylish. And I couldn't find anything,
We
you know?
can't really, right? Because we are kind of stuck in the middle, right? Where we like the fashion world and you want to put yourself a little bit, not necessarily above, but we're, we want to showcase, also our attention to details. So when you think about the clothing in a fitness world, there is nothing really right that it's like really well customized. It's a little bit more kind of over the place in a sense. And then if you do aim for the more high end fashion brands, you don't want to maybe bring it as to that level yet. You kind of want to be in the middle, right?
Yeah,
Because there is like a there is always a time and an
exactly.
occasion
Yeah,
for it to be here and to be here, right?
for sure. You don't want to be too luxury or too formal or too serious, even. I think clothes have such a powerful way to tell people who you are, what you like. I am in New York City and I'm riding the subway, and I can tell just by looking at someone and their clothes if they are progressive, conservative, if they're like rock, if they like hip hop, if they're into, I don't know, like you can tell so much about your personality. If you're outgoing, if you're introverted, if you work in tech, if you're a finance bro, like it's incredible the power of communication of just your garment, even before you open your mouth.
That is
So
so true.
yeah, so I can spot a finance bro from like a mile away,
Yeah.
and it's totally right. Sometimes you just want to wear something, like you said, nicer, but not necessarily that belongs to a different world, like a luxury maison from Europe, but because you still have an identity as an athlete or someone who's like more active, and you don't want to feel like a older wealthy lady. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is definitely a struggle,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And where do you go, right? Where do you get your clothes from? Because if all you have is gym wear, right, sweatpants, t-shirts, hoodies, everything's too casual. What happens if you have, you know, a dinner date, if you have a brunch with your friends, or if you want to go on a trip, or if you want to go to a concert or an art gallery and you want to look a little bit more proper? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that was such a big struggle for me. You know, I'm sure for you too.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that it's not also the, the muscular body, but it's also the person, anybody that really is into any kind of physical activity can feel that, because even if they don't necessarily have that muscularity yet, they might be a runner. A lot of Brazilians are into running,
Hmm.
or triathlon athletes or fighters or whatever the case may be. You also have that you wanna play a little bit too with the way that you dress, so you are marrying the
Oh, for sure.
I'm classy, but I'm an athlete.
But here's my body
I'm
too.
cool.
Yeah.
This is my body. Like however that body displays what you do as a sport.
Yeah.
You
I
know.
think there's a big difference between wearing a shirt and looking like a box and wearing a shirt and showcasing that you have broad shoulders, a nice chest, big arms. Then you, like you said, people know you're an athlete. People know you're active. People know you like fitness, you exercise. And again, it goes back to the communication where you want to showcase and tell people who you are, but not necessarily in a way that looks sloppy or too baggy and hidden, right? By like this bad sheet. That's the only thing you could find that, fits you.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think too, like, I don't know about you, but I I don't necessarily like to be sometimes, like wearing something that brings a little bit more attention to other things. So for example, if you put certain clothes on, like certain brands that have a lot of people wearing it too, and all these people sometimes stand for things that you don't necessarily stand for. So
oh my God.
I
Yes.
don't
Absolutely.
want to be part of that, even if I may like one or two pieces or something, because I think that I don't want to belong necessarily to that, And I think it happens a lot now with the fitness industry. There are a lot of trends that happen, that people they actually want to belong to that trend. And in my mind, I think that we millenniums, we don't necessarily do that, as like Gen Zs do. Some Gen Zs actually don't either, and I think that it's a little bit more. It takes a very finesse in the Gen Z, like how they were actually how they're brought up to not really follow trends when they are that young. Because usually when you're young, you don't know much, about it,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
just kind of follow what everybody's doing. Um,
I definitely stopped wearing certain brands
yeah.
after I saw certain people wearing it, or I don't know, statements that came out in public, and I felt like if I wore that piece, I could be associating myself with that
Hmm.
kind of, behavior
Yeah.
or values that don't align with who I am.
Hmm.
So again, communication. I don't want to be seen as that, for sure.
Yeah.
I think trends are ephemeral, but good taste is kind of timeless.
Yeah.
And as I get older, I'm definitely not in my 20s anymore. I do want to communicate that I'm a man who's a little bit more mature. I don't know everything yet in my life, but I have my businesses. I am, much more comfortable in my own skin. I don't want to impress other people.
Hmm.
And I definitely want things that have higher quality, that last longer, that fit me well,
Hmm.
that make me feel good.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
necessarily trends.
Mhm.
Trends can be very exhausting. Like,
Yeah.
they're so fast nowadays.
Yeah.
It's really hard to keep up,
Hmm.
and I just don't have the time for that. I want something that is good, beautiful, and, that it just really communicates who I am well.
Yeah, and I think it ties back to the amount of time that we take to dedicate our craft into like any sport, right? So like in the world of bodybuilding, we take so many weeks, months, or years to build, the body that we envision. Or
Hmm.
for a marathon runner to finally go from a half marathon to a full marathon, or a soccer player to finally, be able to play a full game. There's so much time into that any athlete's take into really getting to where, like where that place is of like being successful in that sport. And but then
I think that's a key point, actually.
it ties with what you're saying. Like,
Absolutely.
why not? Then you also want to get something that people put time into customizing, and creating, and the quality and
Of
the
course.
time into putting together these pieces of clothing that you're gonna wear.
I mean, you're spending all that time, all that, years of your life sculpting that beautiful body, and then you spend no energy in choosing your clothes. And then as a result, you're not communicating, you're not showcasing yourself well. I think it's a massive, it's a missed opportunity, and for me, that's the biggest contradiction because it just, for me, it's like, you guys are so amazing at tracking your macros, dieting, training, tracking everything to a T for years, nonstop, months, 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 months. But then when it's time to put on a t-shirt and pants or whatever, there's no care and no thought. So
Mm-hmm.
why are you building that Greek sculpture? To
Mm-hmm.
cover it with a bed sheet?
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's a piece of art. You
Yeah.
should showcase it in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So what would you say? Because I would say like you were the one who really put together the name. We were going back and forth with Offstage and some 300 other Greek words.
Yes. Oh God, we got a little too creative.
I know. And what does Offstage mean to you?
Offstage is my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big part of my life. I would say probably the biggest. I mean, probably no, for sure, the biggest part of my life. And we focus so much on the competition, the stage, which is super important. I love it. I loved those minutes on stage in every single show of mine. But that is such a tiny little fraction of everything that goes behind it to get to those 5 minutes on stage, right? You are a human being, maybe a husband or boyfriend or wife or mother, father. You have a job, you have a family, and who you are off stage is such a huge part of your life. And I felt like most people neglect that part. They're so focused on the tiny little portion of the on stage life, and yet they're not living their off stage lives to the fullest, especially when it comes to garments.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were suggesting off stage, I remember that we just kind of sat down in silence for like 10 seconds. Then I looked at you and was like, that's
It's
it.
genius.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it's really about clothes for the offstage life.
Mm-hmm.
You
And,
know,
and the stage can be so many other things too for people who never really step on stage, right? Because the
right?
stage is what, like, I don't know, hospital is for a doctor, or
A court for
a,
a lawyer. Yep.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So when they're off stage, whatever the stage is for them, I think that it's kind of puts back together that thought of like all the identity that you're going to display through your clothes.
Yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
tend to, especially here in the U.S., we tend to become our jobs as who we are in identity, and I think that's, I would disagree that that's the best way to live your life, but the off stage is who you really are,
Yeah.
your life, your human, side of it. And that's the biggest, I would say the biggest, the beautiful side of our brand, because we're dressing people for their real lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they're not performing, when they're not working, when they're enjoying themselves, when they're with their families, their friends, you know, being social, which is such a crucial part nowadays. We're becoming so digital and isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the idea of, you know, designing beautiful pieces to make people's lives better when they're being human beings,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it's really that, you know, important and necessary
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Now, do you want to share a little bit about what is the idea of bringing Offstage into, like, to the public, and how we are actually doing all about it with, putting together some athletes for the check-ins, and displaying all this fun stuff, and really mixing both worlds together, which is sports and fashion.
Yeah, I think Offstage has been probably the most exciting project that I've had in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say that just because it's, you know, what we're talking about here now, but truly because it's something that I've always wanted to do for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And we are taking so much time to really research, like you said, the offstage side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking here about community. We're talking here about third places. We're talking here about connections. You know, I feel like people nowadays are not buying more just products. They want to belong to something.
Mm-hmm.
They want to feel part of something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and whether that's a community, whether that's, you know, anything that brings people together.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I'm designing clothes, I am thinking about all of these situations and these scenarios in their lives. And for our sport specifically, it's been very interesting, the whole research part of like finding the right people too. Because we do have a very concrete set of values that we spent months brainstorming about. Like, what is this brand about? Like, what is this for? What are we standing up for? Like, what do we want to do? Right. And I guess high quality, long-standing, you know, things that are timeless, things that are they have some sort of care, the craft, the construction that again ties with bodybuilding so well because we are sculptors, we're crafting our bodies. So we want to find, you know, the athlete that translates all these values into their lives as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we want someone who doesn't, you know, set up for less, people who don't get satisfied, you know, with being average, people who want to succeed and stand out. They want the very best for themselves, the highest quality, the best everything in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Offstage is really all about,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I know that, you know, a lot of bodybuilders are like that.
Mm-hmm.
They want something really, really, you know, like next level for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been really fun just finding the right people and talking to them and having their faces, like seeing their eyes shine
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about it, because they're like, oh my God, guys, I really like this,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, because that is, I mean, and I think that was part of our, homework to creating the brand, was to see that there was a need for it. Because, like I said, we are kind of, there are a lot of people in our generation, or people who do have a little bit more eyes for, fashion. They see the need for that because they're stuck in that, in those brands that don't bring any quality.
No.
They bring just a lot of noise. They bring a lot of, I wouldn't say like a young blood that it's not necessarily like exciting to me in a sense. It's kind of chaotic.
Of course, yeah.
And I would love to really bring the idea for people when they wear the brand, that they are wearing something that it's, really sophisticated in a way, but also very fun and timeless, like you said, and that young feeling, fresh feeling too, but with more of a classy feel. It's kind of like when you told me, you like your black, like You like to dress black, but you like to
Mm-hmm.
wear some fun shoes. You like to wear some fun, yeah, to kind of break a little bit of that, that idea that you are boring,
Yeah,
because you're not.
exactly.
But I like that, that you think that way, because it's also important, because I think it's not that we're getting older that we're not gonna take chances
It'll
anymore.
get boring.
It'll get boring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always questioned, how, that's just part of my personality. Just question why things are the way they are,
Hmm.
and I like to observe,
Hmm.
and I love sports in general. And I would see athletes in different sports just really showcasing their bodies in a different way. Like a soccer player, shows up to an event looking amazing, or to a press conference, and an NFL player, same thing. And I would go to certain bodybuilding competitions and just look at it and feel like, or I would dress up in a certain way and feel like I was not fitting in,
Hmm.
because I wanted to. I mean, it's my day as a competitor, right? I really wanted to feel special,
Hmm.
and I take bodybuilding very seriously. So I wanted to be, special and take myself seriously as an athlete too. So I really questioned why that never happened with us,
Hmm.
why we never had something like that in bodybuilding, or a brand that could provide that to
Hmm.
us. Like you said, allowed, brands, I just never connected with it.
Hmm.
Why don't we have something that it's just a little bit more, resilient, hardworking, yet, kind of like
Edgy.
edgy, but quiet. Like, here, I'm in my corner, but I'm working really hard, just
Hmm.
like doing my own thing. But once I get on stage, you'll see who I am. That's kind of what I would, I want for Offstage, is this, um, feeling that, you know, need. There's a huge, huge need for that
Hmm.
right now.
We went deep into trying to find, okay, so what would Amanda and Renan wear, and and pick and choose within the fitness industry? Like, let's say that's the only thing we can choose from.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, I don't have anything.
Nothing comes out to my mind either.
Nothing comes up to my mind.
Nothing.
I don't necessarily want to wear the Prada yet. I don't want to take the Prada. That is like really like,
Yeah.
but I don't want to put what everybody else is putting on their body, because it's just not what really represents,
It's not at the level that you want,
Hmm.
period. And I think that's the biggest thing in fitness. Like you said, they're chasing trends, they're chasing ephemeral things, but no one is really paying attention to
Quality.
quality, to good materials, fabrics. The fact that, I mean, we're athletes, right? We take care about our health. Why would you dress wearing, plastic, quite literally, that, within 2 washes, you're disposing microplastics or exposing your skin to that. So all these things are just like big questions. Why are things the way that they are right now? And I'm so excited for Offstage to bring that change, that, breath of fresh air, where we're thinking about that.
And I think one of the coolest things too that I envisioned for us to do, and we talked about that, and we are pretty much aligned with that, idea of really bringing to the audience the story behind, the creation of the brand, and showing them how we get, the materials, or how we put the pieces together, and then actually getting the measurements from athletes and putting them through a whole fitting, and getting them pretty much ready for their check-ins or their expos, as if they were going to a gala.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's key. The thing with clothing nowadays is that they're not made for us. They're designed for average people. They're not designed. When I say us, I mean people who exercise, people who are into fitness, weightlifting, fighting, whatever that is, right? So when they're grading sizes, like the bust, the waist, the inseam, like all of that is based on people who are sedentary. So it's very hard to get those garments to fit as well, and like I'm just
Didn't you say something about the measurement from M to large on the waist is like,
Yeah, it's like 2 inches. Yeah, if you go from like one size up, the waist goes up like almost 2 inches.
and usually the waist for us doesn't.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
right? How can you do that for, like a wellness girl to a wellness physique, or like your waist doesn't change that much because you're still fit, right? So it's very important to have garments that are designed with muscular physiques in mind, which is just something that doesn't happen right now. So it's been really fun just to, take measurements from the athletes and really go back to the drawing board, making patterns that are, made for those people. And then, doing the fittings and then designing everything from scratch. Like I said, I love drawing. So it's been so much fun drawing those garments and making the sketches and then the fittings and choosing fabrics that are high quality. I'm just so tired of blanks. I'm so tired of templates that just have a logo on it. I think we can do a lot better, and we've been learning so much too about, everything. And I'm super excited to have our athletes wearing, that kind of garment in their own worlds and seeing what the reception is going to be. You know what I mean? It's going to be super exciting. And not only them, just people in general. I want people to love what they have and, like love the construction, have fun with it because it's different. It's high quality. It's like edgy. Like I said, it's not boring. So I don't know. I'm super excited for it. I can't wait.
That's awesome.
And I love that we're bringing a kind of architectural thought into Offstage. Thinking about the 3D and the silhouettes and the construction of the garment and how can we make this differently. We even heard from some factories like, oh, this is really complicated. Like
how complicated can it be? We just started.
So that is the level that we are already, because people are telling us, oh, this is next level. Because we're spending time on detailing garments, construction, and the fabrics, and that's what I think it's gonna be really interesting to see people's reaction. I really want people to see and open like the garment and look at the zippers and look at the label and see that everywhere they look, there'll be something good for them to look at, a little surprise, like an Easter egg, here and there. Instead of just like a template that was printed God knows where with, a logo, and that's it. That doesn't fit well. It's not made for, a body of someone who exercises, and so on and so forth,
I love that because it's basically, and I just realized that. So I think that type of personality in people, I think are found in every single industry, because in the fitness world, we have those people that understand that things take time, but we also have the people that are constantly asking us, how long would it take for me to lose weight? And you go like, it's not that it's not simple. It's not complicated either. It's a matter of are you going to be able to follow these steps, because life will happen, and we might get there fast because you're excellent in following instructions, or you're going to get into your own head and not get there as fast. And I think it's the same concept of a industry looking at you, or a fabric looking at you, a company looking at you and saying, this is too complicated, because they want things fast. They're like, this is going to take too long. How long is this going to take? This is too complicated. I want something fast. I just want to make the money.
Exactly.
Sends me the money. I'll send you a blank shirt. I'll put a logo on. Well, you make it cool because you're going to have a cool, I don't know, influencer wearing it and being loud and crazy about it, and a bunch of people buy it. Cost you $5. You make 500,000 of them, sell it for 3 times more. We're good. Now you're bringing me too complicated because this is quality stuff. It's going to take time.
They always want to do the way that they always do it. I remember this kitchen that I did in Brazil where, the guy from the marble, he was like, oh, it's impossible. He literally told me it's impossible. And I said, it's not. You just never done it. Do it. I can, we're gonna make this work and it's gonna look great. And it's in my mom's kitchen. It works. It didn't collapse. It's there because people want to do it the way that they always do.
And they want it fast.
And they want it fast.
Because they want to jump into the next thing again.
Exactly.
I mean, let's go. It's just flipping, right? Flipping businesses and flipping money. And it's the way that I guess most people are, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. But that's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for a season. We're looking, my eyes are in the future. I want to make sure that people, come back because they, think, oh my God, I've had this tank top for 5 years and I've washed it so many times. It's never piled. The quality is still there. It did not get stretched out. And, that's what people stand up for, those values of like long-standing, trustworthy, reliable. That's what I want. So I'm not interested in doing something quick. I'm actually enjoying the process very much. All these design meetings and like brainstorming about it. I love a good challenge. And I love it. Like I have this mood board for Offstage and I can see because I put all of my sketches side by side and there's this like top that I can see all the iterations of the form that's been just like evolving and get better and better, or we're tweaking the construction here or changing the button there. And it's just like, oh, it's really getting better, and I am not going to be done until I think it's perfect or close to perfect. And really when my heart beats faster, then I will know that it's ready. When you think about the future, I know that, this baby is still, we're still pregnant, but I can't help because that's how I am. I like to manifest. I like to think about the future. What do you think about Offstage? Where does your mind go in like a couple of years from now?
I see Offstage in every single body that holds a type of standard for themselves and want to communicate through their clothing as well. And on the bodies of people that actually never really knew of that language before, because I think it's important. Not everybody really understands fashion. And I don't think that fashion has to be of a elite level where sometimes people hear fashion, they think it's something that you almost were, like you were born with, It's like, oh, you're into fashion. It's like, like I can't get there because it's there, and it's not. And I think that we can teach people that language and in a very fun way, but also hold in understanding how to see it, what is good, what is not, what is trendy, what is not. And I see a way in the bodies of really, truly anybody that is part of something in any sport. It doesn't necessarily need to be a professional sport. It can be anybody that holds the standard of really being part of the fitness world. Because I think that everybody that is moving their body, either in the gym or in a sport, on the streets, running, they are into fitness. They don't have to be a professional bodybuilder, a professional soccer player, a professional basketball player. But if they are, moving their body to achieve better health, they will be wearing Offstage, because it's going to be like, I'm wearing Offstage, I have all of these standards, and I am an athlete. But when it comes to Offstage, I know that I'm starting right at the perfect time. I wasn't ready before, I'm ready now, and I think that there is no limit, really, there isn't.
I think the timing is perfect.
Yeah.
I've never felt so ready. I feel very comfortable about where I am as a person, as a fashion designer, as an architect, as all of that. And also I am ready just to give it back to the community. It gave me a lot of things in life, and I'm sure it gave a lot of things to your life too.
Yeah, bodybuilding became my life in a sense for many years.
Yeah. So I'm really ready to give it back as my gesture of gratitude. Thank you so much for, bringing so much joy, so many accomplishments, so many trophies. And here's my thank you gift. I want you guys to always remember what you're capable of, how good you can look, how your image is so important. Not only when you're wearing, posing trunks or a bikini on stage, but in life as a general. And, I think you're learning so much. I'm really proud of you for that.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for the trust. I can't wait to be a dad.
This is just the beginning. I'm really excited. Thank you.
For sure.